Now, let's talk about the situation with Nigeria's refineries. We're watching and witnessing a turnaround in that area as Nigerians have grown over the past 4 decades and counting about the moribund refineries that have failed to live up to expectations, especially in light of some of the challenges and how central petrol is to the Nigerian economy, especially following the removal of fuel subsidy in May last year by the Tinubu administration. So what does this signpost and what is the current development indicating regarding a turnaround in the near future? We also understand that the NNPCL is open to giving the Port Harcourt refinery out to private operators to guarantee efficiency and, of course, all the other parameters that can give Nigerians quality and, of course, utility, maximum utility that can guarantee some sort of meaningful impact, economically speaking. There is also the Dangote refinery that is gladdening the hearts of most Nigerians who are happy to hear that operations have begun. Well, we're going to talk to some industry experts as well as economists on this particular discussion to understand what this development means and how Nigerians should realistically manage their expectations as a result of some of these developments. Joining us virtually here in Abuja is Steve Nwachukwu, who is an economist, and he'll be giving us some perspective to some of this development. A little later, we'll be joined by the IPMAN president, the current president of the Independent Petroleum Marketers Association of Nigeria, who is also going to add value to the conversation. But we start with Mr. Steve Nwachukwu. Good morning. Thank you very much for joining us on Daybreak once again. I appreciate you for making the time. Your perspective as an expert, but also as a Nigerian, with regards to some of these developments we've seen over the past couple of weeks and months. I mean, we've seen it coming. The government made some promises. The Dangote refinery was promised to kickstart last year. There were some hitches here and there. We were happy to report that operations have begun. The Port Harcourt refinery, we've also seen it being test run. And now for most Nigerians, we are witnessing some sort of turnaround in that area. What are your thoughts about the developments we've seen so far?
Thank you. Good morning, and thanks for having me once again. First and foremost, the essence of trying to rehabilitate or bring back our erring refineries and also the... Can you hear me?
Go ahead, please.
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead, please.
Okay. It is just to try and solve the issues around the import of 100% import of our petroleum products. Yes, it's important that we solve these issues around the consumption of foreign refined products. And it's also important we realize that we have to manage our expectations in the sense that for a couple of months now, we've been hearing of the revitalization, rehabilitation, revival, or revamping of the three moribund refineries, and that of the private sector driven, which is the Dangote refinery, which we have been expecting to be on stream for a couple of months now. Will I say, fortunately, we had the news of the completion of the first phase of the Port Harcourt refinery, which is about 60,000 capacity. And now we are also hearing the issue about sourcing or going to look for those who will manage it, a private firm that will manage it. Yes, it's good also to look towards that angle. But what should be the concern of most of us? Like I said, the essence of this discussion is to manage our expectation, because we have been hearing over and over issues around our refinery. During the last administration of President Buhari, we heard about this investment close to $15 or $10 billion to revamp most of these very moribund refineries. Until now, we are not still seeing a drop of crude being refined by these very refining plants. So, like I said, it's more of managing our expectation. In fact, for me and the rest of the analysts, I expected the Dangote refinery to be on stream by September last year. Till now, we are still talking about issues around supply of crude oil and issues around the trench, the phases that it's going to start. Till now, we are not still seeing Dangote refinery, at least the one we have so much expectation from, not being on stream. But like I heard also in the last 1 week that they have received close to about 4 or 5 million barrels of crude to start production. We need to start seeing this refined product being on the police stations.
All right.
Let's say Nigerian marketers
Doctor, if I
start
may.
calling them, moving in to buy most of these products. So,
all right.
like I said, it's a good thing to talk about bringing private sectors to manage it. But what should be the criteria? What should be the transparency focus of Nigerians will be those who have a track record, those who have the financial capacity, those who are the original manufacturers, those who have the experience, those who also have that capability to maintain it, perhaps if anything happens to most of those refineries or the components. So, like I said, let's continue to manage these very issues around. In fact, Nigeria has spent more than $1.5 billion in revamping this very Port Harcourt refinery. I don't know what of essence finding who will manage it. Let's believe that government is going to do the best for Nigerians. But like I said, we need to solve these issues around importation of our petroleum products.
All right,
we can save
Doctor,
a lot.
if I may come in at this point, I would like you to help us understand in actual reality how much of relief we should be looking forward to in 2024, considering some of the staggering data that we have as far as spendings around petroleum products are concerned. I mean, in 2022, it was reported that we spent about $26 billion importing refined products. Today, our currency is battling. I understand yesterday it has touched between 1,250 and 1,300, depending on which of the market you are sourcing, because of the scarcity, despite securing about 2.1 billion from Afrexim tied to our crude, largely because of lack of depth in that market. Imagine we could conserve $22 billion from importation and pump into our FS market. I imagine that our currency will be trading below 1,000.
Stability.
Yes, help us make a sense of what the savings from this, from the spending around this could do for us. I mean, if you look at diesel today, it's around 1,400 per liter from barely 250 naira over a year ago, and the impact that has on businesses. Now that we are refining locally, what should small businesses and average Nigerians look forward to, since we are going to be conserving a lot of dollars from some of this coordinated effort between Dangote and hopefully Port Harcourt refinery?
I love that clause. You said, now that we are refining locally. That's the expectation of Nigerians, now that we are refining locally. But I think, like you said, the data are there to show that we really need to deal with issues around this import of our petroleum products. Take, for instance, if we're able to refine the Port Harcourt refinery alone, the two trench of it, which is about 150,000 barrels per day and 60,000. That's about 210 barrels. Yeah. If you can be able to put those 210 capacity in use, that means you are having about close to about 35 million liters. A barrel of crude oil produces about 170 to 165 liters of petroleum product, or PMS in particular. It means if the 210,000 is in use, it means that we will be sufficient with about 35 million liters daily production. That must have solved more, if not 90% of our daily consumption.
All right.
Like you said, last year, the data shows we spent close to $25 billion in import of petroleum products. And that's a lot of pressure on our forest market. So this government has to be sincere and deal with this issue of import. That's another way of reducing that pressure that CBN passes on daily basis to maintain or manage our forest market, at least for the stability of our forest market. So government has to be sincere. The rhetoric around the production have started, the 60,000 is coming up, managers and others should end with some level of product. We need to start seeing these numbers. Like I said, we need to start seeing our major marketers to start moving to those refineries and be picking product from those refining plants. That's the realities. That's what we need to start seeing. If we have also the private sector, which is a Dangote, maybe with close to 200 or 300,000 barrel production a day, that means Nigeria has more than sufficient supply. And like I said, it will save on daily basis. We are spending more than $35 million. $35 million, more than $40 million on import of petroleum products. On PMS alone, on PMS, not even the diesel. So if you put the diesel together, it's somewhere around $100 million we spend on daily basis for import of this very petroleum product. So what can government do to at least cut this thing by, if not by 100%, by 50, 70%, is to live to the reality of these refineries. That's the only way. Like I said earlier, whatever needs to be done, if it requires them, like they are shopping for foreign managers or private sector managers, let it be done transparently. Let it be done with people who have financial record, people who has capacity, people who has that maintenance capacity for those refineries. Like Nigeria has spent a lot in this very revamping of this refinery. Recently, we spent $1.5 billion. So let this money not be in wastage. We need to save our exchange market. We need to defend Naira sincerely. We need to defend Naira with these very policies around reducing imports of foreign-made products.
Okay.
So government needs to realize the need to make sure that these refineries work and also support the private sector, that of Dangote, by making sure they make supplies of crude oil to them so that they will start production, at least reduce the pressure on import bills.
All right,
that
Doctor,
is very important.
I would like to further expand these conversations, taking a lead from some of the things you have suggested in your intervention, one of which was how to shop for the right people. For the longest time, it is safe to say that we have mismanaged this asset. I was at the Port Harcourt refinery, and some of the insiders' clue I got from some of the engineers we have there was that as at the time these refineries were shut down, the components that went bad could have as well been sourced from some of the other refineries as scraps, and we should have kept this running until we could find some of these things and fix them. But that's a story for another day. My real worry is what should be the model, for sustaining the huge amount of money we have spent on this refinery. We have attempted to sell them at some point, you recall, in the twilight of the Obasanjo's administration. That decision was reversed by the Yar'Adua administration, and we have paid dearly for it. Today, our total spendings in this for refinery is the equivalent of what Dangote has used to build a greenfield refinery from scratch. What should be the model? Should we sell out some equity so that the people who are coming to manage have a stake in what they are managing and therefore will put in their best? Or we just bring a manager supervisor who really does not have a stake and probably sees it as an opportunity to come make his own beef and move on probably to another person? What kind of operational model, given global best practice, would you recommend that we should apply to a very invaluable asset as the Port Harcourt refinery, remembering that there are two components of those, as you have mentioned, 150,000 barrel per day and the other 60,000 capacity barrel per day. What kind of management would be best for this integrated facility?
Yeah, unfortunately, we were talking about just about 60,000, which is the old one, which is about 60 60 years old refinery. Yes, it's believed that the refinery can also be operational for more than 100 years. We are not even talking about the 150,000, which is a larger component of the Port refinery. Back to your question, what kind of model do we expect or do is it best for us? I think the best is the equity stake. Let there be a commitment in form of equity in this very refinery from those prospective managers or target managers. Like you have the LNG model. That's a perfect example. The LNG model, yes, the Nigerian government sell 51 or in 1051 or sell 51 and 1049% in these very refineries. That is where we see an optimal performance by these very private managers. There is no how you will spend $1.5 billion to refine by a refinery and freely give it out to someone who has no stake, who has no commitment, who has no financial stake in that refinery. You will not get the best of performance from such managers. So we expect federal government, whatever be the agreement, let it go the line of equity stake. I know federal government has spent a lot, but we still need to get the commitment of these very managers. That's the only way they will be committed to it. If they have a stake, in fact, one of the articles I saw that they should have close to about $5 billion balance sheet or thereabout. That is not just the balance sheet. We need them to invest. We need their commitment in this refinery. That's the only way they will be sincere. Okay. That's the only way they will be committed to it. Okay. If you give it to them at free, they don't have any stake. They can still run it down again because the 1.5 billion you spent is not coming from them.
Right, Dr. Wachku, pardon the interruption. Apologies for that. We're just going to have to segue for a little bit because we've been joined also in the studio by the National President of the Independent Petroleum Marketers Association in the studio with us, Abubakar Megandi. But before we further double down on this conversation, we're just going to segue into yet another conversation around some of the other developments in the country. Over the past couple of weeks, we've been talking about developments on the plateau in light of those attacks in the build-up to Christmas, on Christmas Eve, and subsequently some of the attacks that had unsettled the fragile state of Plateau. Plus, some of those developments in the aftermath of that attack, as this past week, the Governor Caleb Mutfwang, survived the last hurdle in the litigation against his election victory as governor of Plateau State. We're happy to have the governor of Plateau State join us virtually from Jos to help put some perspective on some of these developing issues today on the program. Excellency, good morning. Thank you very much for joining us on Daybreak. I believe congratulations are in order. What can you tell us first and foremost about that verdict and what it means for not just your administration, but for Plateau State?
Thank you, my brother, for bringing me on to Trust TV. This victory at the Supreme Court, I think, is a victory not just for Plateau State, is a victory for Nigerian democracy, is a victory for the return of belief and trust in the Nigerian judiciary, is a celebration of hope that democracy will survive in Nigeria and that the courts are there to be able to protect democracy. For us on the plateau, it's also a celebration of the importance of protecting the rights of voters. We are the people the people voted for. I am the governor the people voted for, with all sense of humility. And what the Supreme Court has done is to respect the wishes of the voters. The victory at the Supreme Court is also... Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, Your Excellency.
Yes. Also, what this means to the people of Plateau State is that it has given them hope that the government they place hope in, that their hopes have not been dashed. Therefore, we want to thank sincerely the people of Plateau State. We thank the judiciary. We thank Nigerians for insisting that the right things be done. And I'm glad, I've always said it, that we must also be grateful to Mr. President for restraining himself from intruding into the judicial arena. I think it is good for Nigeria.
All right, Your Excellency, as Ahmed said, congratulations are in order. But given this opportunity, we cannot also fail to reflect on the incidences a couple of days leading to this judgment, the one that puts Plateau on a very sad pedestal. The attacks on the eve of Christmas, the killings, the allegations, and counter-allegations, the visits of the vice president and also the service chiefs and the defense ministers. What is your assessment of some of the interventions that have taken place since that attack? And are we confident that those assessments are sufficient enough to foster a repeated attack on the plateau? And what are the structures going forward that you are putting in place to respond adequately to some of these attacks should they rear their heads again?
Yes, thank you. The attacks were quite unfortunate. It is not something to be celebrated, but we are grateful to the federal government for the response, which came immediately with the visit of the vice president, the chief of defense staff, the national security advisor. Also, the inspector general of police followed up subsequently. The minister of defense also came. We are grateful, and the service chiefs. So we want to, since then we've swung into action in trying to make sure we mobilize all the resources and assets at our disposal to bring succor to the displaced people. And also we are working, we are looking after those who are injured in hospital. And then we're also trying to see how to secure some of the communities where these people were displaced from so that they can return to their communities as soon as possible. But very importantly, the security agencies are on the trail of some of the suspects behind these dastardly attacks. And I'm been informed by the security agencies that a number of arrests have been made. A lot of investigations are going on by all the key security agencies. And I'm very hopeful that this time around, we're going to make a difference by ensuring that those who are found culpable are charged to the appropriate courts, duly prosecuted, and if found guilty, given the appropriate sanctions.
Okay.
It is important that we do this. If not, these criminal tendencies will continue to flourish.
Right.
Beyond that, I want to also commend NEMA for the interventions they have made so far. We are trying to ensure that all the relief materials that are brought, that are judiciously utilized for the benefit of those who have need of them. I must also commend the international organizations led by the UN organizations, UNICEF, WHO, and the rest of them, who have also come in quite handy to assist the distressed people. So it's an ongoing thing in every respect, both in terms of the management of the post-attack crisis, the investigations going on. We hope that all that is going on will be able to close this ugly chapter and hope that it doesn't occur again.
Governor, for most people, governors over the years have made us believe that as chief security officers of their states, they have limitations that doesn't allow them or that don't allow them to deploy certain mechanisms to prevent attacks like this or even manage situations like this. From your perspective, I mean, in the wake of these killings, you've talked about, being aware that, some of these people were hibernating at a secondary school for a very long time. Give us a sense of what is happening right now. Is the Plateau State government still an onlooker in the push to address some of these security gaps that exist in your state?
Yeah, thank you. The debate will continue as to who should be in control of the forces on ground. The governors would always tell you that, which is true, that while we have forces on ground, the governor does not have direct control over the security agencies. They are still answerable to their bosses in Abuja. And that places a bit of limitation on the governor, because if they have different perspectives from the organs at the top in Abuja, it makes the management of the situation on ground a little bit challenging. But having said that, managing the forces on ground also requires a great deal of man management skills by the governor. So I wouldn't say that a governor is totally helpless. I have been able to develop the right kind of relationship with the commanders on ground, and we are trying to make sure that we come on the same page in understanding both the remote and immediate causes of these issues and how to be able to put heads together. So it's about leadership, really. And by the grace of God, we're improving on this every day. And I want to commend the commanders I have on ground so far. They're doing their jobs. There are areas where we can improve, certainly. But beyond that, we are also trying to ensure that the communities themselves are sufficiently conscientized and mobilized to be able to defend themselves, because the security forces can only come in and go. The people still remain in their localities.
All right.
And they form both the first and the last line of defense.
All right.
But
Governor,
let me use this occasion to dispel the insinuations of some very wicked, irresponsible people who are spreading falsehood that the state government has any militia. What we have, the security local vigilante called Operation Rainbow is being supervised by the police and all the security forces. And they are the people responsible for the training of these people. And we have never done anything hidden. Therefore, when I hear some people making insinuations about Operation Rainbow, it is politically motivated, it is irresponsible, it is wicked, because they don't carry arms. These are people who simply are vigilantes in their communities.
all right.
And these facts can be verified by the security agencies on ground.
All right, Governor, given your last comments about conscientizing the people on how to defend themselves, most Nigerians would say, how do you defend yourself against people bearing very sophisticated arms? Because each time these operations are carried out, it appears like an operation that was carried out by people who are prepared and the right personnel. And that leads me to the question. Where are you particularly as a governor on the issue of state police? Why is it difficult for us to have that conversation? How genuine is the concerns around governors, the tendency of governors to mismanage the deployment of troops if you put that control in their hands? And what do you think we can do, to tilt that conversation in a manner that essentially helps us, to respond effectively to some of these concerns on ground?
Thank you. I am a firm believer in state police. Sincerely, I've had so many arguments about it, the tendency of governors to misuse their powers and so on and so forth. Look, we cannot continue to live in fear and refuse to face realities. Globally, security is a local issue. And unless we are able to bring it down to the level of the communities, we may not achieve much success. I do appreciate the fact that governors are human beings and can be able to misuse those powers. But if you look at it in places like America, they also have the federal police. The FBI, for example, is like a federal police. And so where the powers of state police are abused, there should be a mechanism to checkmate that abuse. So I think for effectiveness, we cannot run away from the issue of state police. We must look at it critically. All the talk about community policing by the Nigerian police force, I do not think it is effective because the time span for dissemination of information and decision-making is very critical. Where you have a situation where there's an attack in the community and the police will be able to mobilize to counter it are 3-4 hours away. It doesn't make sense. So we must be able to bring it closer to the theater of conflict.
Right.
Now, my take is that the communities defend themselves in several ways. One thing we are trying to do beyond the kinetic solutions to this crisis is to develop both inter and intra-community harmony. Because we are found that to attack the target community, they have passed through several communities. The communities of first contact that saw these people advancing, what did they do with the information? Did they raise an alarm? And so what we want to do is to promote the spirit of brotherhood, that we are our brothers' keepers. Information dissemination is key. And if we are able to pick these people from wherever they are coming, and we're able to disseminate it timeously, it will reduce the impact of these criminals on their target territories.
Right.
So I think there's a lot to be done, and we are doing it by the grace of God. I will continue to ensure that the communities are sufficiently conscientized to look out for one another. And so that will also give the security agencies the opportunity to come in as and when due. Their response time will be greatly reduced.
Okay.
And besides that, some of the terrains are very difficult. This is where we'll be working and collaborating with the federal government to see how we can be able to access some of these difficult terrains so that we can govern all the spaces that need to be governed and reduce the incursions of these terrorists.
Governor, just before we wrap up, 2 questions on the harmony that you're trying to engender across communities in Plateau. Over the past 2 decades, we've seen ethno-religious fault lines be weaponized in so many of these violent clashes that we've seen on the Plateau. What is your administration leveraging on to ensure that everyone on the Plateau who is interested in the growth and development of Plateau State as an indigene or as a visitor is committed to, to this particular move, so you can domesticate some of these ideas that, this homogeneous society can work together as one? And on the other side, the political, question is regarding what has happened to the National Assembly lawmakers, in your state, for instance. We understand the minority caucus in the House of Representatives is calling for some sort of punishment or punitive measures to be taken against, the judges that sat at the appellate court to deliver those judgments that took them out of office. What is your take on that as the quote-unquote only survivor of that particular development?
Yeah, thank you again, Ahmed. Let me say this, that the issue of, let me take the last one you mentioned, the issue about those who were victims of the perverse judgment at the appellate level of the court. The debate is ongoing. We'll continue to look at all the options available. There's a lot of discussions going on within the legal community in Nigeria. And let me say that within the framework of our present jurisprudence, there is no immediate remedy you can fall onto. But again, these are opportunities to develop the law. When we have a lacuna, we get to a point where we find that there's a lacuna in our body of laws. This is an opportunity to develop new thoughts on how to deal with these possibilities. If we are talking about disciplining the judges, we should also talk about disciplining the lawyers who misled the judges. So it shouldn't be a one-sided debate. I think we should look at it holistically. We should look at where lawyers know the principles of law that are well established and choose to go against it. Should they be left unpunished? These are questions we need to answer collectively. And my advocacy is that we must do all we can to reduce the stress in the electoral system so that the votes of the people can be respected. Now, on the first leg of your question, which was, please remind me again.
What is your administration doing to facilitate some sort of program that, counters against the ethno-religious tensions and fault lines in Plateau State that have been used over the years to weaponize these attacks?
Thank you. Now, let me say this, that those who have weaponized ethno-religious sentiments are elites. They are elites. I have discovered that the ordinary people are victims of elite manipulation. You find that when people are getting out of political relevance or seeking advantage, that there's a tendency to look for some kind of political oxygen to revive their dying fortunes. And this is what we must continue to checkmate, where religious leaders go on their pulpits and make very, very inciting statements that, first of all, are not factual. We must condemn it in all terms. There's one recently circulating on the plateau, which we have asked the security agencies to look into it critically, because those statements are not only inciting, they are irresponsible, they are wicked, because they are not based on facts. Now, what we are doing is to expose these elites for who they are. And I am a grassroots man, so I'm getting directly to the people and engaging them, educating them that we can live together in harmony. We must not allow these barriers of religion and ethnicity to hold us back. After all, like you mentioned, these crises have persisted for over 2 decades. Nobody has benefited from it. So we cannot continue to do the same things over and expect better results.
All right.
By the grace of God, I am bringing in quite a lot of showing the ordinary people the way that we can be trusted as leaders to be able to ensure fairness, justice, and equity in all that we do.
All right, Governor.
This is the path that we intend to continue.
All right, Governor, before we finally let you go, we have this question I would like you to get your perspective on. Gradually, there seems to be a narrative that is gaining traction. Oftentimes when these attacks happen, there is a conversation around the ordinary citizens doing something to defend themselves. But thereafter, we see military authorities going in to confiscate whatever weapon is available for them to deploy in self-defense. So there is a growing narrative around the need to review our gun laws. As we have heard the Association of Gun Manufacturers say in the US, that the only way to stop the bad guy with a gun is to arm the good guy with a gun. What's your perspective around self-defense? What model do you think we should be looking at so that you don't sit and watch helplessly while your life is being ripped away by people who the state has not been able to stop from acquiring this sophisticated weapon and deploying on you without mercy?
Yes, thank you very much. On that, I will draw a very pragmatic line. We must be able to ensure balance. But we cannot just leave people to possess guns without control, without accountability. And so my own is that even if we're arming communities, there must be a registration process. We know who is holding what, where. But I must comment on what you said earlier, we have witnessed a lot of overzealousness by some of the security agencies, operatives on ground, who instead of cooperating with locals, when they find them sometimes with ordinary machetes, they confiscate them. And we have engaged their commanders to say, no, this is not right. You should be able to boost the morale of those who stand up to defend their communities and not arrest them. We've had a few excesses which we have reported to the authorities. But let me also say this, that the security agencies have been infiltrated by fifth columnists. This is a fact we must confront as a nation. There are many people in the security agencies who should not be there. They are agents of these criminals. And sometimes they even compromise their colleagues. And that's why you have a lot of ambushes, sometimes when these security agencies are going on operations. Therefore, the president must give a very firm directive to the security agencies that in the ongoing recruitment processes, diligence must be taken, diligence must be observed to ensure that wrong elements are not recruited into the armed forces, into the security agencies, but there must also be a mechanism to be able to fish out these bad eggs within the security services. It is only when we do that that we can ensure that there is professionalism and discipline and also some bit of empathy to the victims of these attacks. When you delay to respond to a distress call, and then you go upon letter and begin to seize the weapons of those in the communities, I think it is a disservice to those communities.
Right.
So my take is that we must balance gun control, yes, but we must also be able to find a way, and this has to be a collective decision. It's not something that you just pass down the throat of the communities, because if we are going to any community will defend itself, it has to be a collective responsibility, and therefore there is need for a lot of discussions around these issues so that we can find what is most workable in the circumstances in which we find ourselves.
Your Excellency, we're going to have to leave it here for now. Thank you most kindly for sharing your time with us this morning and for speaking to us on Daybreak on Trust TV. Thank you most kindly for your time. The legal battle is over. I suppose the next challenge now is to continue governance over the next 3 years and counting. Thank you most kindly for joining us, Governor Khaled.
Absolutely, Ahmed. Thank you, gentlemen, for this opportunity. And I'd like to assure you that with the love Plateau people have shown us, we owe them a debt of gratitude, which can only be shown, can only be repaid by good governance. This we promise to deliver. Thank you very much for your time, Governor. All right, we've just been speaking to the Governor of Plateau State, Governor Khaled Mutwan, who, this past week secured a victory yet again at the Supreme Court as the substantive governor of Plateau State. And we did talk about a variety of things around the security on the plateau, especially in the wake of all those attacks and counterattacks from Christmas to the new year. Right, we're going to just take a quick break. When we do come back, remember, we're still talking about the refineries and the repositioning we're seeing in that sector. We have with us in the studio Abubakar Megandi, who is the national president of the Independent Petroleum Marketers Association of Nigeria. Get his perspective on some of this development and what it means for their members, but for Nigeria as a whole. More on this one after the break. Welcome back to the program. Right, let's double down on that conversation on the developments with regards to Nigeria's oil refineries being back operational. Well, not all of them being back. Even the Port Harcourt refinery is not fully operational right now. But of course, good news as well in the private sector, where the Dangote refinery has come off stream. And we're going to talk to the national president of the Independent Petroleum Marketers Association of Nigeria, who are very central and important to the distribution and the supply chain here in the country. Abubakar Megandi is the national president of the association. Thank you most kindly for joining us in the program. It's good to see you.
Thank you very much.
Right. First and foremost, what is IPMAN's position on the developments that we've seen so far with Dangote refinery, the Port Harcourt refinery, NNPC's position on looking for private operators to run the refineries when they're fully functional?
Okay. First of all, let me say good morning to Nigerians and good morning to our independent petroleum marketers. Well, the development actually is not only IPMAN, it's the development for the whole Nigeria. Because we independent petroleum marketers, before we have only one source of getting products, but now due to the coming of Dangote refinery, it's another chain of getting the product. So it's a welcome development, and of that very big higher capacity.
And yeah, go ahead, sir.
So how are your members preparing for this? Last week, I think it was, we got news of how you people are meeting and you are planning to meet with management of the Dangote refinery on the modalities that would make ease of evacuation of this, especially even the ones they have started with diesel and aviation oil, and thereafter, hopefully, in not too long a time, the petroleum product. What can you help Nigerians understand what kind of an arrangement is going on, and when should we start getting these products at your retail station?
Well, in fact, we have already contacted the management and we sent all our letters. So what we are just waiting now is the meeting between we and Dangote, so that we can be able to know the quantity that he can be able to give us at the end of the day.
Has he responded to your...
Yes, we are waiting for his response. I know very soon he will respond to us, because as you know, we independent petroleum marketers, we are having the largest retail outlet in the country. Therefore, there is nothing he can do. I know he has to put us on board.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you are you're part of his customer base, but give us a perspective that Nigerians can relate to, because over the past 3-4 weeks, the big question, especially on the news, is there's a potential that PMS could sell as high as 1,200 or 1,300 naira. And for most Nigerians, they feel like IPMAN as an association or its members as businessmen only care about the profit and not necessarily the hardship that Nigerians have been facing, especially over the past 2 quarters since the removal of fuel subsidy in May last year. What is your response to that? Is IPMAN solely just looking at the profit, or there is also a sense that, listen, you're trying to make life easier for Nigerians also, regardless of the business component of it?
No, for the intonation that people to say that we are just after profit, it's not like that. Remember that we too, we are Nigerians, and we need something that at least will bring ease to the masses. And remember that most of our filling stations, they are all over in the whole country. Some are in the villages, local government, state government, and other places. So, in most of the cases, it's our relatives are buying this fuel. Therefore, we don't want a situation whereby we put a hardship on them. Always what we are looking is how to bring this product to a lowest rate that all Nigerians can be able to purchase it, so that they will be doing their normal business.
Do you think that with what we have seen, because people keep saying even if the refineries begin, prices would not go down, all kinds of insinuations have been made. Are we expecting that the prices would trend downward? Because these days we wake up, there is a little scarcity in the morning, by evening there is an adjustment in the price. Are we expecting, now that we have removed the component of importation and everything, are we expecting to see the prices go down?
Yes, definitely that is what we are expecting. Remember that this product is very refined in the country. Therefore, we know that definitely it will come down. And the capacity which Dangote is producing is a very big capacity, which is more than Nigerian consumption. And remember that even Port Harcourt refinery will soon be into system. So I think the price, by God's grace, is coming down, because, you know, the reason why you have been seeing that the price is going up, because we are not refining the product in the country. We have to use dollar to go and purchase this product. But now we are using naira to purchase it. And already the commodity is inside our country. Therefore, we are expecting the price to be lower a little bit, but not the way people are thinking it will come down seriously, but it will be lower.
Yeah, okay, you just made a very good point there about, you know, people's expectations. Nigerians clearly expect a quick turnaround in this development. But from your experience, from what you're seeing so far, from the communications you've had, What is your estimated timeline before Nigerians can see a decline or, you know, of the pump price, for instance?
Well, you know, since there is market competition, not only Dangote, as Dangote now has started producing, I know most of the Nigerians, they are trying to see how they will do their refinery. Like we independent petroleum marketers, we too have been going around to see that we do our refinery. Already we have the intention, we secure the land. Definitely, we can call most of our foreign partners so that they will come and we'll see how we can be able to produce our own refinery too.
Okay, finally, before we let you go, Nigerians lately have been complaining, and I'm wondering if you are able to provide answers to this, but nonetheless, I will go on. That it appears that the quality of fuel that we are selling at the stations is different from the old one. They claim that it appears that it burns faster because you are buying at a very expensive rate, and it turns out not to get value from it. Is it true that the quality of the fuel that we get at the retail station is different from what we used to get prior to the subsidy removal?
No, it's not like that. You know, when the price is being increased, you will see the quantity that you have been buying before. Now it has been up to 3 times compared to the way you have been buying now. So that is the reason why people, when they buy the PMS, they will just see they didn't take a longer time, it burns.
Right, okay.
So that is just the situation.
Okay.
But the quality and the quantity of the product is the same thing.
On a final note, though, there is something that I believe, as a cow owner myself, some of your members are guilty of, and that's the manipulation of their pumps, for instance. Lately, we've seen so many cases being reported. Is IPMAN interested in working with, you know, regulatory agencies to ensure fair play, that none of your members are manipulating their pumps to cheat Nigerians, especially who are buying these products with their hard-earned money? Is there any sort of disciplinary action? Do you make sure? Do you have a mechanism to ensure that everybody is, you know, operating according to ethical standards?
Well, you know, we independent petroleum marketers, because of the large volume of retail outlet that we have, that is why people are thinking that anything immediately when they mention, like what you have said about the temporal of the meter and the rest of them, they will refer it to the independent petroleum marketers. But honestly, it's not like that. We independent petroleum marketers, we are always very cautious in terms of our business, because we fully depend on cash and carry. And if you are tempering meter, definitely people will run away from your filling station. There are some stakeholders that we are together. They too, they have filling stations. So sometimes any filling station people see, they will just say this filling station is for independent petroleum marketers. Sometimes we even call the regulatory body to come and check the dispensing of our pumps, so that to see that we are giving people the right thing. We give them whatever they buy, we make sure that we give them.
Right.
All right. We thank you very much, Alhaji Abubakar Megandi, and also congratulations. This is your first time, I'm sure, since your election. Right. The last time you were here, you were vice president. Now you have been elevated.
Okay, thank you very much.
And I hope you came with petrol for us to celebrate your election.
No, the petrol is available, it's available in most of our filling stations.
All right.
Anywhere you go, you can get it.
Fantastic.
Right, okay.
We have been talking with Alhaji Abubakar Megandi, president of IPMAN, who has helped us understand some of the expectations of Nigerians around these new refineries and how they would help along that value chain to ease distribution across the country. Once again, thank you very much for finding time to be here.
Thank you very much.
All right, we will take a breather. A quick breather. When we return, the show continues. Please don't go away. Thank you very much for joining us, and welcome to that segment where we serve you the stories that made it to the front pages of the National Daily. We are pressed for time, and so today we'll be reviewing just 2 papers. Our reviewer is already in the studio to give us deeper perspectives into some of these issues that made it to the front page. We will start with the Daily Trust, and the major story there. It's despite multi-billion naira complex, NSA's office commit 32 billion to new buildings, and it's a misplacement of priority.
Wasting resources in a
coming from the
fantastic way.
CSOs. an expert. You'll find the details of that on page 4. You'll find a magnificent building there. I mean, when we were having these conversations in the newsroom, some person said this office would as well pass for the NSA office in the United States of America. The magnificent. You would think that we would deploy resources to the areas that would help us fight criminality and crime rather than some luxurious office for back-end office users. Moving on to other stories. Residents found dead, building destroyed as explosion rocks Ibadan. And Supreme Court reserves judgment in Nasarawa KB governorship dispute. And finally, insecurity. Bandit adopt 17 in Niger. Tinubu summons service chiefs, FG6 France help. IGP deploys DIG in Abuja. And security agents have gone to sleep. Senator Kingibe. These are the stories on the front page of the Daily Trust.
Really indicting words. Let's turn our attention now to the front page of the Punch newspaper for today. Abduction epidemic. I would say crisis, but okay. Anti-kidnapping protest holds in Abuja today as 10 suspects have been arrested. Tinubu vows crackdown on kidnappers, agents of darkness, abductors kill hotel barman. And federal government saves 8 trillion naira from subsidy removal and forex reform, according to a panel by the president. It will be worth looking at, to get to the details of this one. Many fear dead, as far as we can report, 2 so far, as announced by the governor. But the point is saying many fear dead as massive explosion rocks Ibadan. Naira plunges to 1,300 naira at parallel market and refinery issue. Dangote investors gain 1.2 trillion naira. Well, that's it on the front page of the Punch. Let's bring in go-to man on a Wednesday. He's not particularly in a jolly mood this morning. I wonder why. Mr. Ben Sherman is here with us yet again.
Insecurity here and there. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
No, well, I can see.
You have every reason to be sad, isn't it?
Honestly.
Yeah.
Now, when you're talking of NSA, National Security Advisor Office, that magnificent kind of a building that we are still committing so much in it. Is it that the building is there as Mongunu built and it was commissioned by Buhari? It was just there and there were no equipment, but we were shown some footages of equipment that, look, we could see quite a lot of distance right in Nigeria here. That reminds me of a situation I saw in Technion University in Israel. Look, they could beam almost anywhere and you could see. They did a demonstration to us, you know. Now, that is a kind of a replica I saw the days of Burata in Borno State. I just burst into an office unknowing, honestly. And what I saw, incidentally, I saw a colonel where we had this Haskebu in Jaji. I could see him. I said, oh boy, what is this? He said, shh, but let me tell you, see this street, we can see as far as how many kilometers. See this one, we can see as far as how many kilometers. Now, why don't we replicate this in Abuja? If the Office of the National Security Advisor has quite a lot of these things, why should we have this kind of insecurity in Abuja?
I know security is important, but is it your opinion that we cannot afford this kind of wastages? Is that what you're saying?
I think we shouldn't go into all of this kind of magnificent kind of building. It's not about fashion. It's about doing the job. Now, in doing the job, I'm wondering, look at Wike summoning security. Look at Obetoku, who, when he was acting, said, I feel like roaring like a lion. I feel like devouring them. Now they are challenging you. Today you are deploying DIG. Is it when the president complains that you begin to act? Your action is reactionary. Why don't you prevent instead of reacting to situations? I think that should be it. And Wike too, Minister of FCT, I think leave Rivers alone and face us. Look, help us here. Let the Chief Security Officer of Rivers State take care of Rivers State. Yes. And you here in Abuja, face FCT.
He said in his meetings with the mandate secretaries and security chiefs yesterday, on the one hand, while admitting the insecurity, he said he also appears that the media is blowing the issue out of proportion. I mean, with with what has happened in the last couple of, does it appear that we are blowing this out of proportion?
Media is blowing. You see, the whipping child syndrome. Who do I blame? Let's go to the press. look, somebody has stolen something, and a boy went and told it. The boy is the problem for having revealed that so person stole something. The media is responsible for vandalization of DCC cameras that have been reported. The media is responsible for kidnapping in some estates here in Abuja. The media is responsible for that. The media is responsible for touts. You have 419 here and there. We have one chance driver here and there. The media is responsible. No, we say no. We are just a mirror. When Wike dresses and he stands in front of a mirror, what he sees in that mirror is what the journalist is telling him. What is obtainable in society is what we report upon. It is for us to hold them accountable for their actions and inactions. If you feel you should blame the mirror, you can't break the mirror. The mirror will always be there.
Someone said Abuja is fast becoming the unsafest place in the country. Do you think that that's a fair description with regards to what has happened over the past couple of weeks and also over the past few months?
You see, sometimes due to what you call responsible journalism, some of us begin to hold what you call self-censorship, because there are things at the point, if you overblow them, you're also sending your investors away. Now, if we came, for example, we say, let's join hands, come, where are we wrong? And we begin to move together. And so when I see that some people are saying Abuja is becoming too unsafe, where the president is, guards brigade there, all the service chiefs, the inspector general of police, just name every security apparatus. If you mean it and you are in business, your headquarters is in Abuja. And if you therefore say that the place is unsafe, then where else is safe? And if you go to some villages, I know like in some areas in my southern Kaduna, if some women will want to go fetch firewood, they have to go in a group and assisted by men before they get firewood to go and cook. And
right.
We are talking of some unsafe situations, and we need people in authority to salvage the situation, not the blame game.
All right. I think it is safe to say that we cannot overemphasize the developments around Abuja and its environs. Let us quickly touch on Ibadan. I mean, as we were preparing to go to bed yesterday, stories started filtering in of an explosion. We were not sure at first what it was. Some said it was gas explosion. The governor ended up admitting that it was explosive by illegal miners in the popular Bodija area. I'm sure you're the last time you were in Ibadan when we spoke to you, you have a good sense of what the kind of damage that this would have caused, given the dense population of Ibadan. Talk us through what occurred to you when this story broke.
Yeah, you see, when you say illegal miners, was it that they kept the things there? Was it that they were doing illegal mining? And usually when you must do mining and there has to be explosives, it has to be away from residential areas. That has to be made very, very clear. And a situation where it is so much densely populated area says a lot in terms of even explosive controls. There has to be police clearance, there has to be SSS to even have what you call explosives in terms of mining. You don't just import, there has to be clearance. And you also have to say exactly where you are keeping them. Some people have to go do some clearance checks. Is it, can we save them here? And if they were in use, were they in proper use and a proper place? These are things that ought to be looked at. And when you say it's gas plant, now, if it's a gas plant, it's coming when Nigerians are now saying that's the alternative to petrol. Now, how are we therefore going to handle it if this is a first point in time and we're now going to be having cars using gas here and there? What does it say in terms of even conscientizing people? How do we avoid this kind of explosions? We ought to, not that we'll just be rushing and we'll be talking about consequences, and again the blame game will come on board. I think quite a lot of things will have to be done. And at the point some people say, oh, I hope it's not Boko Haram. But if the security agencies are saying it is gas explosion, let's take it for the time being that it is so. But hoping that they'll cast their net and see what they're going to catch. Is it Boko Haram? Is it an accident? Yeah. We have to know.
Okay, let's cross over to Ibadan now live. Adenike is standing by for us to give us some update as the day takes shape and as Ibadan wakes up to this tragedy as they pick up the pieces, and we can confirm some of those developments. Adenike, good morning. Not sure it's a good morning, but thank you very much for joining us on the Breakfast Show. Give us a sense of what is happening today in Ibadan. What is the mood like across the city? Plus, what can you tell us about rescue efforts to find missing persons or those affected by the rubble?
Thank you very much, sir. Presently at Aderiola Street, Kodija Estate, Ibadan. This is the place where the explosion occurred yesterday night. The explosion occurred around 7:45 p.m. yesterday night, and rescue operations are still ongoing. There are quite a number of people here. Several people are here, including security officials and emergency officials, media men. This place is fully packed. The rescue operation is still going on. When I arrived this morning, a dead child was found under the rubble, and the child has been evacuated. An elderly man was also found, but the man was still breathing. So he had also been rescued and taken to the hospital. So rescue operation is still ongoing.
All right, Adenike, what new information do we have as far as the figure of the casualty is concerned? Have there been any updates? And are there further briefings away from what the governor said by the State Emergency Management Agency in this regard?
The state's emergency management is still busy at the site, and nobody is ready to give a concise, a precise number of the casualty, except from what the government has said. But since I got here, I've seen 2 dead bodies lifted from the scene, from the site, and one wounded, one severely wounded. Like I said, rescue operation is still going on. But the latest information I had now, while I was close to the epicenter, because I moved away from the epicenter. While I was close to the epicenter, security men came and told us that we should move away from here because they are suspecting that the explosives are still buried down under the near the site.
Right.
So that's the latest.
That's very telling. Adenike, we're going to have to leave it here for now. I'm sure we'll circle back during the course of the day to find out more as soon as those informations trickle in. But thank you most kindly for the update and for the situation report. Thank you very much for joining us on Daybreak. Right. Adenike Kafi there giving us some update. We will keep tabs on these developments as they continue to unfold in Ibadan and bring you up to speed with all of the information. We're going to have to leave it here for now. We're completely out of time. We did enjoy some of our extra time, but Mr. Benjamin, as always, thank you for being a good sport and for joining us on the program.
Just a clip.
Very briefly.
Yes. You see, when there's an explosion of this nature, like I tell reporters, always don't be the first to be at the center. Okay. Sometimes you have some hidden ones that will explode later on. Right. And even people who rush to just be onlookers. Right. You are never rescuers. Okay. You just block those who have gone to rescue.
Okay, okay. Well, that is Daybreak for today. Thank you most kindly for joining us. Really appreciate your time and company. We'll be back tomorrow live at 8. My name is Abdullahi Ahmed. Good morning.
I'm Sunday Michael Ogo. Let's do this again tomorrow. Good morning.